All right, what is going on, Lions fans? We are 3 days away. 3 days away. We're literally right on the cusp of the 2026 draft, where the Lions have the 17th pick in the first round. As I've been saying, I think that this is a big draft. This is a make or break draft for Brad Holmes and the rest of the team, because I think that the Lions, I think that the window is still open, but the window is slowly moving to that halfway, almost being shut moment. And I think that Brad Holmes has to knock it out of the park. And there's been a lot of talk lately about Brad Holmes and about how he's drafted and how, the good moves he's made and the players he's brought in. So I thought with a couple of days into the 2026 draft, which we do have one more mock draft coming. We're going to do our final mock draft, trying to see if there's any other, even if they're minor moves that might be made, any trades that might be made ahead of the draft, which, I don't really see happening, trading up, trading down, just trying to give it a little bit of time. But just 72 hours out, actually, as of right now, as I'm recording this video, is exactly 72 hours out of when the draft will start. I decided to take a look back at Brad Holmes, and let's look at the players that he brought in. I'm going to look at his first five drafts, 21 through 25, and go over each player and where that player stacks on the team and what they have done. So let's look at Brad Holmes' first draft, 2021. With the first round pick in 2021, they took Penei Sewell. Penei Sewell, I will give him an A+. That was an excellent pick. Brad Holmes obviously knew that the foundations of any team is the offensive line and the defensive line, and he went with the best offensive lineman in that draft and probably the best offensive lineman to come out of the draft in the last 5 years. In the second round, he took Levi Onwuzurike, another player who is still on the team, who has actually been a complimentary piece. I would give it a solid B. It's hard for me to actually rank him a little higher because he was hurt all of 2025. In the third round, he took Aleem McNeil. That's a player who is still on the team to this day. Aleem McNeil, to me, has been the glue in the middle of that defense. Good pass rush up the middle. When I say pass rush, I don't necessarily mean getting to the quarterback, but he does have good pressure. He does, a lot of times, he will put the guard in the lap of the quarterback. Also in the third round in that draft, he took Afete Melifonwu. He is no longer with the Lions, but he actually was a good pickup. A pickup that I actually would give that a B- when he was here. He was a very good number 3 safety. He came in, he filled his role, and I thought he was a guy that the Lions would bring back, but they did not, and they let him leave. In the fourth round of that draft, another player that is still on the team to this day, wide receiver Amon-Ra St. Brown. This is another A+, just like Penei Sewell. Amon-Ra St. Brown has been a solid one of a top 10 receiver in the league, and definitely the Lions' best receiver. And with that long-term contract, he will be the best receiver for years to come. Also in the fourth round of that same draft, Derek Barnes, a guy that I liked in college coming out of Purdue. He can play the edge. He can play the middle of the field. He can even play a weak side linebacker. He is still on the team to this day, and he has been a great contributor. And then in the seventh round, the Lions took Jamar Jefferson. Now, Jefferson is no longer on the team, but pretty much for the time he was there, he was either the third string running back or he was on the practice squad. And I would give that pick a solid C. So the 2021 draft, we see Brad Holmes, did pretty well. Let's move on to 2022. In 2022, in the first round, the Lions took Aiden Hutchinson. I'm going to give Aiden Hutchinson a solid A. He has been a good pass rusher, but he just has not had a partner on the other side of him that won't allow teams to double team him and chip him. I mean, I've seen plays where he is going up against the right tackle, but before he even gets to the right tackle, he will get chipped sometimes by a running back, a fullback, or a tight end. And then sometimes they would even keep another running back on that side of the field to give extra block. But I would say, for what it's worth, he's been our best pass rusher, probably even as young as he is in his career, our best pass rusher ever. And I will give that a solid A. With the second pick in the first round, this comes from the Matthew Stafford trade. They took wide receiver Jameson Williams. Now, he was hurt in 2022, but he has proved to be a receiver who can take the top off the defense. This is what you call a weapon. Even if he's never the type of receiver that catches 100 balls a season. He's the type of guy that will always have the safety having to stay deep, which opens up the middle of the field. Right now, I would give Jamison Williams a B plus. In the second round, he took Josh Pascal, defensive end out of Kentucky. I am going to get at a C plus. Josh Pascal, a guy that I really liked a lot. He just did not live up to the expectations, and the Lions did not re-sign him after the 2025 season. In the third round of the 2022 draft, a player that's still on the team to this day, safety Kirby Joseph. Kirby Joseph was looking like a top 5 safety. Now that's all in limbo because he has that unoperable knee that cannot be operated on. So we don't know if he's going to come back in 2026 as himself or he's going to be a shadow of what he once was. Hopefully, Kirby Joseph is back to being a top 5 safety, and that was a great pick in the third round. In the fifth round, he took tight end James Mitchell. James Mitchell hung around for a couple of years. I would give that pick a solid C. He was really more of a third string, tight end, special teams player, practice squad guy. Number 6, this is a big one. A guy that's still on the team to this day, linebacker Malcolm Rodriguez. That year in 2022, I thought he had a very good year. He was a great surprise, especially for a guy taken in the 6 rounds, and he is still on the team to this day, and I think he will continue to be a contributor on the defense and on special teams. Also in the 6th round, James Houston. Now, you talk about a guy who caught lightning in a bottle. In 2022, James Houston comes in. He gets 8 sacks in 8 games. If I'm not mistaken, it was either 8 sacks in 8 games or 8 sacks in 7 games. But he took off. He was on fire. Unfortunately, in 23, 24, 25, he just never lived up to their expectations. But for what it's worth, I'm going to get that pick a B minus. And then in the 7th round, they took Chase Lucas, cornerback out of Arizona State. Chase actually had a couple of decent years, but he was really more of a situational corner and a special teams player. All right, let's move on now to 2023 and see what the boys did. So in 2023, let me get this up here. The Lions also had 2 first-round picks. With the first pick in the first round, they took Jahmyr Gibbs. Jahmyr Gibbs is still on the team to this day, and Jahmyr Gibbs is absolutely a top 2 or 3 running back in the league right now. The Lions are absolutely going to sign him long term, and I'm going to give this pick an A plus. With the second pick in the first round, the Lions took linebacker Jack Campbell, a guy that Brad Holmes wanted very bad, and he said he was not going to take a chance on him being there in the second round. I'll give Jack Campbell an A plus. We all saw it coming, that once this kid got the speed of the game down, that he was going to be a great linebacker, and he is going to anchor the middle of that defense for a long time to come. The Lions had 2 second-round picks, and they knocked it out the park with both of them. With the 34th pick, they took tight end Sam Laporta. I keep hearing talks about should the Lions trade Sam Laporta instead of re-signing him because, there are some decent tight ends in this draft. I don't think so. I think Sam Laporta is a keeper. I think you find a way to keep him, and I'm going to give Sam Laporta an A minus. And then with the second pick in the second round, they took safety Brian Branch. I'm giving this pick an A. Brian Branch has been an absolute steal. He came in playing the big nickel. He can play close to the line and help shut down the run. He can play the middle of the field. He can cover wide receivers. He can cover tight ends, and he is an excellent tackler in my opinion. Let's just hope that when he comes back from this injury mid-season that he's back to what he was. Which brings us to the third round pick. They had 2 third-round picks. Both of them are picks I was disappointed in. Quarterback Hendon Hooker was the first third-round pick. I was actually excited when they took this guy. I thought this is going to be a great backup for Jared Goff. Unfortunately, he never panned out. Word is that he just was not getting the playbook down. It just was not coming easy to him, and the Lions did not re-sign him in 2024. And then the second pick in the third round was Broderick Martin, a guy that some of us had high hopes for. He was like 320 pounds, defensive tackle. In college, he did great pushing the interior of the offensive line, but in the NFL, he just did not cut it. And the Lions, did not bring him back. And so I'm going to give that pick I'm going to have to give Broderick Martin actually a D plus because he really never, and I'm going to give Hendon Hooker the same grade because either of them, they never really contributed. They didn't have a 4th-round pick, but they did have a 5th-round pick. And another guy who was still on the team, Corby Sorsdahl. I'm going to give that pick a C, a solid C, because he is actually playing his role, which is to be a backup. He can actually play all three positions. Now they say he can play center, but we know he can play guard and tackle. He's still on the team, and he has been a good swing player. And in the seventh round, they took Anton Green, who actually contributed on special teams quite a bit. And I would give that pick a solid C as well. He is no longer with the team, but for what it was worth, he did, play the role that they had for him. So now let's look at the 2024 draft. The Lions, with the first round pick, the Lions took Tyrion Arnold, cornerback out of Alabama. I'm actually going to give Tyrion Arnold, I'm going to give him a B minus. I was close to giving him a C plus. He just has not lived up to the expectations, but he has shown flashes. This is why I'm giving him a B minus. He's shown flashes that he could be the shutdown corner that the Lions want. The thing is that he's going into his third year. So as long as his legal situation is not serious, we still have time to see him grow and see what he can do. In the second round, the Lions went with another corner. They went back-to-back corners. They took Missouri cornerback Enos Rakestraw. I am going to give this pick a C minus because we really don't know what Enos can do because he's actually been hurt both seasons. But I'm giving him a C minus based on what he did in college, and hopefully he can show what he can do in 2025 because he's finally going to be healthy. The Lions had 2 fourth-round picks. With the first one, they took Giovanni Manu, offensive tackle out of British Columbia. I am giving this pick a D plus. They took this kid as a project, but when I saw him play in 2025, it was very clear to me that he cannot play. Now, he could maybe hang around, maybe another couple years, he could be a serviceable offensive lineman, but right now, I don't even think that he's good as a backup, and he definitely is not ready to be a starter. I get that a D plus. In the fourth round, they also took running back / safety, Sione Vaki. I'm going to give him a solid C because he is actually very good on special teams. And I think that he can hold it down as a number 3 running back. I would like to see him get more touches in 2025 and be more of a contributor. And then the Lions had 2 6th-round picks. They took defensive tackle Mekhi Wingo out of LSU. I am going to give him a C plus. He has contributed on defense, and I think that this could be a year that he can take a step up, but we'll see. And then with the other 6th-round pick, another player that is still on the team to this day, Christian Mahogany, who actually started in 2025. Now, for what it's worth, I thought that Christian Mahogany started out looking pretty good at that left guard spot. I thought that he held his own until he got injured, but I also don't think that he did well enough for us to say that left guard spot is his, like a lockdown spot. Excuse me. Thank you. I had to get a drink of water. I don't think that he's done good enough to say that he's actually locked that spot down. So I would give that pick a solid C plus. And like I said, maybe we see what he can do this year. Maybe, the Lions have to go elsewhere and bring in somebody who can, tackle that spot. Now we get to 2025, which is Brad Holmes' 5th draft, right on the eve of his 6th draft. In the first round, the Lions took Talik Williams. Now that pick was a head scratcher when the Lions needed an edge rusher. Even in college, Talik Williams was not a Warren Sapp type of defensive tackle, a Jeffrey Simmons type of defensive tackle. At Ohio State, he was not a pass rusher. He was more of a well-balanced defensive tackle. He can get some push in the middle. He could even be a 2-gapper to an extent, but he is just definitely not a pass rusher. Now, towards the end of the season, he actually started to get more playing time, and we kind of see now that they weren't going to bring DJ Reader back. So really, this is DJ Reader's younger replacement. For what it's worth, I'm going to give him a B minus, and that's just based on the last 5 to 6 games of the season where he really picked it up, which brings us to the second round. Guard Tate Ratledge out of Georgia. I am giving this pick a B plus. Now, if you have been following the Lions Den for a minute and you saw our 2025 mock drafts, I took Tate Ratledge every single time in the second round, and the Lions ended up taking him in the second round. I nailed. That's the only pick out of all these years doing mock drafts I actually nailed it. Tate Ratledge, to me, lived up to the hype. He was a very good guard, and I think he's a lock for that right side, and I think he's going to be a good guard for years to come. I want to see him stay at guard and not try to make him into a center. Then the Lions moved up in the 3rd round, and they took wide receiver Isaac Tesla out of Arkansas. Now, this one, I'm going to give it a C plus. And the main reason I'm giving it a C plus is because really Tesla only had his best catches were touchdowns, but they were just spectacular catches. Those are all of his best catches. He has not shown me yet that he is a deep threat. He hasn't shown me yet that he's good, let's say in the slant game, in the middle game, in the short yardage game. He just has not shown yet that he's an all-around receiver. So I think that he's gonna have to really show something this year to show that he was worthy of the Lions moving up in the third round and taking him. In the fifth round, the Lions took offensive guard Miles Frazier, a pick that I was excited about. I'm going to have to get his pick a C- because he was hurt most of 2025, but he's a guy that I think can stick around on this team as a backup. Then in the sixth round, the Lions took defensive end Ahmad Hassanin out of Boise State. We didn't get to see what he can do because he was injured all season. We didn't get to see him at all, but maybe in OTAs and mini camps, we'll get to see some flashes of maybe what he can do, and he can maybe be a complimentary pass rusher. And then the Lions had 2 7th-round picks. The first pick in the 7th round, they took safety Dan Jackson out of Georgia, another pick who was injured all season. I know a lot of people were very excited about this guy, particularly my guy Emery Hunt, who is an excellent draft analyst, was very excited about Dan Jackson, saying that he can make the team. I do think that he probably can stick around and be a reserve safety and a special teams player. But for what it's worth, I'm going to have to give him a C-. I'm not going to go lower than that because he was a 7th-round pick. And then the last pick in the 7th round was Dominic Lovett, wide receiver out of Georgia. He only contributed on special teams, but he is still on the team. I'm also going to get that pick a C- because he did stick around the whole season and, and it was able to, stay around on the team. And, he didn't get cut like a lot of 7th-round picks do. All right, Lions fans, those are my thoughts on Brad Holmes and his first 5 drafts on the eve of his 6th draft. Give me your thoughts on the draft. Which of those drafts was your favorite draft of Brad Holmes? What do you grade him? And, how do you rate him as a general manager, / president? Do you think he's been excellent? And how would you grade him? Would you give him an A, a B, or a C? I don't think you can give Brad Holmes lower than that. I'm going to give Brad Holmes an A. I would give him a solid A-. Other than the Tesla pick, he hasn't really had any picks that are like real head scratchers that make you say, what was he thinking, or why would he do that? So I'm going to give Brad Holmes an A-, but let's see what he does on Thursday. All right. If you haven't already, like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell so we can keep talking Lions football. That's all for this one. Until next time, peace.